Welcome to the Human Evolution Podcast, where we explore the evolution of human consciousness in the modern world. I'm your host, Breanna. Welcome back to the Human Evolution Podcast. Today we are talking about capacity and how to build and expand your capacity so that you can sustain momentum. One of the number one questions I get asked is how I have been able to continue to expand my capacity to do more, to create a business, to create programs, to run multiple true retreats at once without burning out. I have learned how to do this, and it is not something that I got right from the start. I have been through periods of burnout in my life. I have certainly been through the yo-yo phase where you are completely crushing it and killing it, and then you hit this point of absolute exhaustion and plateau, and you have got to rest and recover. And that yo-yo phase of going all out and then coming back down, and whether it's sickness or illness or something that slows you down and flip-flopping back and forth between that is something I see in high performers all of the time. And what is exciting is that you don't have to stay in that place, right? If that is you, if you are feeling really exhausted and burnt out, or if you have been through that cycle of yo-yoing and you are ready for another way, there is another way. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. The human body is a multi-layered system. I teach this in the model of the whole human model. We have multiple layers to ourselves, and thus we sustain capacity at each of these layers. And capacity is our ability to sustain sensation without overwhelm. And that capacity is something that you can expand over time. We are born with a baseline level of energy, our energetic capacity or baseline, and that is something that it's important for you to understand, right? How much energy do I have on any given day, and what do I want to do with that energy? Yet the good news is that you can also expand that capacity and deplete that capacity. So the first thing to recognize around energy management is this simple two sides of the equation, right? Where are your expanders and where are your depleters? And where are you focusing your energy? And this can be different for each of us, right? Some activities that individuals that you may find are expanders can be depleters for others. And so it's important that you begin to recognize this in your own life. You can do this on a daily basis. You can simply track your day and recognize what activities or what things am I doing that are expanding my energy versus what are things that are depleting my energy. And you can get very, very specific about this. Things like washing the dishes or doing your laundry. Do you find that meditative and expanding, or do you find that depleting? Right? Basic tasks of being a human being. The same is true with the work that you're doing. When you track your work on a daily basis, where are you finding what falls in that expanded category versus what falls in that category of depletion? So going back to the whole human model and these different layers of our being, we have 5 different layers of ourselves. We have our physical body. This is the physical skin, bone, nails, hair, teeth of our physical body. And our physical body has things that it needs to sustain its own life force. Then we have our energetic body. And our energetic body is what is between our physical body and our subtle body of our mind. This consists of the natural flow of your breath and this energetic field that pervades your physical body. Then you have the layer of your mind, and this is referencing more of your outer mind. So your thinking mind, the mind that is processing all of these thoughts that you are experiencing on a day-to-day basis, processing all of the sensations that you're taking in from the external world. The next layer is the layer of your discernment or your inner mind, which actually allows you to determine and decide, what actually are you bringing in to a deeper layer of yourself. How are you deciding what is aligned for you versus what is not? And then at the deepest layer of yourself is what I call your core self, or the innermost aspect of your being. And this is the seed of who you really are. So, capacity exists across all of these different layers. And often we think about capacity as one dimensional, right? It's one dimensional. I maybe even either have it or I don't, or there's not a lot of framing around how to work with yourself and expand your capacity. So, like we said, it's important to understand what are your expanders and what are your depleters, and what are your expanders and depleters at every single layer of yourself, right? So, what is supportive for your physical body? What support for your energetic body, for your mind, for your ability to decide for yourself, and what is really nourishing that innermost core layer of yourself as well. So, if you are experiencing burnout or depletion or exhaustion, it's important that you identify what layer are you experiencing that in, right? Are you simply physically depleted, or are you mentally absolutely drained? And from that awareness, you can then begin to take action on a daily basis to make sure that you are refilling your cup up on each of those layers. So, to bring this back to my journey and how I have really been able to shift out of that yo yo mentality to create sustained capacity, it is by ensuring that I am very aware of what's happening at each layer of my being, and structuring and creating a system on a daily and weekly basis that allows me to maintain this capacity. This goes back to the fundamental principles of daily routine and having a daily self connection practice. And those things are absolutely non negotiable. When I started Anya, the first thing I said to myself was that I am not allowed to have this company if I am not meditating on a daily basis. And I have not broken that vow to myself. It is the number one thing that is most important to me. I don't care what else is happening in my world. I will not miss that. It is priority number one. And that is because I know that that time is what allows me to ensure that I am going in the direction that I desire, and that I have clarity across all of these layers of myself. And if I am not grounded and anchored within that, it's very easy for me to drift astray. So, having some sort of daily practice for yourself is critical for you to be able to manage your own capacity on a daily basis. The next thing is daily routine. And we have talked about this on the podcast before, around the importance of structuring your day in a way that is aligned with your own energetic cycles. This is something that I fine tune on a seasonal basis. And it's something that I have posted in my Notion dashboard. And it's the first thing I look at every single day. And it is, what does my day look like? What does my week look like? And I try and stick to that schedule as much as possible, as I know it is going to give me the most energy, and it's going to help me like stay on target as much as I can. We all know that life happens and that things come up, right? That we're not always able to stick to our ideal daily routine, or there are things that we have to manage that are out of our control. It is through that daily morning practice where you're able to check in with yourself and shift and see whether there are micro adjustments that are needed on a daily or weekly basis. Now, this brings us to reframing the way that we think about rest and rejuvenation. I am a go getter. I love to create and I love to have multiple projects going at once. And I used to have a challenging relationship with just allowing myself to be, right? To be in stillness, to, to sit and rejuvenate, and to view that as actually productive time. But the truth is that rest and rejuvenation is as productive as anything else that you could likely be doing, because it is ensuring that you do not find yourself in the cycles of burnout or yo-yoing again. And so I have fundamentally reshifted and reset my relationship with rest and rejuvenation. I give myself a lot of time to sit in silence and stillness with no stimulation. And I know that that is some of the most productive time that I have, because it's allowing my body to reset and restore itself. What I see often in high performing individuals is that you fill every single waking moment of your calendar. And then in any little downtime, you are working to distract yourself and fill in the gaps more. And so you're in this state of constant overstimulation. And that is having a direct effect on your own capacity. Right? We as human beings, we can only consume so much information. And today, now more than ever before, we are being asked to consume more and more and more on a daily basis. And so you may not have found yourself in a period where you have actually been in silence without stimulation in a really, really long time. Yet that is what is critical to ensure that you can create and sustain this momentum for a long period of time. Whenever I find myself in those situations where I want to push forward more, I always see that as an indicator of potentially a red flag, as a note that maybe I am pushing myself past the boundaries of what I can actually sustain, and that I need to pause and take a step back and ensure that I am moving at a sustainable pace. So that means that you may be working in cycles where there is more expansion and then a pause of rejuvenation intentionally, so that you are able to sustain that momentum for a longer period of time. Your capacity also works a bit like a balloon. Right? You can fill and extend yourself out to a certain capacity. And if you push yourself past that, then it will pop. Yet, if you expand it slowly and then hold that momentum and sustained capacity there, and then expand it out a little bit more, you're able to stretch it without it bursting. So, this is again what I've experienced in my own life when I think about creating Anya and holding retreats and expanding my capacity to bring on more clients and hold more as a leader and for members of my team. It has been an intentional redirect of being able to expand and hold that balloon without it bursting. Whenever I am taking on a new project, or we are expanding ourselves as a team, or I am doing something I haven't done before, I'm very intentional about the way that I prepare myself for that. So, for instance, earlier this year, we ran 3 retreats back to back to back. I knew I was going to have 2 months of immense intensity. For the 2 months leading up to that, I was preparing my body for being able to sustain its momentum throughout that time period. So I was giving all layers of my being extra love, extra care. I was practicing through visualization, expanding my energetic capacity to hold these different experiences. And I was also giving my body more rest and more rejuvenation, so that when that time period came, I knew I was going to be able to hold, to thrive through that. And that is exactly what happened. So, as you are thinking about expanding your own capacity and getting off the burnout train and creating sustained momentum in your own life, one, look at your expanders and depleters. What are the things in your day to day that give you energy versus drain your energy? Get rid as much as you can of those depleters and focus on your expanders. Two, recognize these different layers of yourself and begin to build a relationship with each of these layers. Begin to understand how your capacity works at each of these layers and notify yourself when you are beginning to kind of hit that red light at any of these layers. And instead of pushing through, give yourself the pause and the rest and rejuvenation so that you do not break and burn out one of those layers. And third, create sustainable systems, whether that be a daily practice, daily routine that ensures that you are checking in with yourself on a regular cadence around how you're feeling, how you are doing. Because that, at the end of the day, is what is going to allow you to go farther for a longer period of time. Thank you for being here with me today. I'll see you soon.